Hello and welcome to day 7 of our 12 Days of Christmas special here on Georgie's Stripping the Dipping. I'm F1 Blag, your host, and while we're only halfway through the 12 days of Christmas, today is the last day of 2023. So whatever it is that you get up to tonight, have a fantastic new year. For the 7th day of Christmas, we reflected on who won 2023, and without doubt, it was Red Bull. So we thought we'd bring you 2 employees of Red Bull. One of the modern era, looking ahead in fact to the 2026 regulation change with Red Bull powertrains and Ford. And another, Sam Leeks, who I interviewed earlier in the year, reflecting on her time in Formula One, including her first job at Red Bull, joining them in 2008 just on the precipice of success. She was there throughout the Sebastian Vettel era. But first, I'll hand over to Denz, who I'm still looking for by the way, and his interview with Olabode George Brown. Happy New Year.
I'm really happy to say that I've got my bro from actually the same secondary school as well, which is a madness. I'm very happy to announce that we've got George Brown, engine designer from a very, very reputable team that makes energy drinks. So I'll let you guess that. But George, man, how's life been since we last caught up, man? It's been sensational.
Awesome intro again. Thanks for having me on again, guys. Love the intro, Denz, man.
Can you tell our listeners, especially for the newer ones out there, what you do, what your role is, how you earned that opportunity, and just like what day-to-day life looks like as a design engineer?
So I'm a design engineer at Red Bull Powertrains, or I guess now we're Red Bull Ford Powertrains with that Ford link up. I work at the moment in the mechanical development department. So I don't necessarily design PU components. I work more within the sort of put together rigs that sort of sign off, develop different PU components. So I do spend a lot of my time putting together different sort of, test systems of varying different sizes and scopes for different parts of the PU. I say PU because I basically work on not just rigs for the actual engine, but more on the ERS side as well. So day to day, I'm doing a bit of design, trying to get rigs together, sort of liaising with component designers on requirements that they would like to get out of sort of rigs, putting rigs together through a design stage, holding reviews, and then sort of liaising with project managers, support kind of departments, getting bits together and to be built up, working with the facilities guys, because those test rigs would need different systems to allow them to work, whether it's 3-phase electricity or water connections or compressed air. So I'm pretty much kind of like a middleman between PU designers who are basically designing certain components and kind of the test team as well. So guys are running the tests. So in a way, kind of pulling the strings for different subsystems.
So that's an interesting one, George. And before we turn on to the other subjects, again, I don't want to land you in trouble, so I'm going to keep it very generic. But, we know that there's, Red Bull are going into a new kind of era. We know, obviously, that they've got their own kind of division with the Red Bull powertrains. Obviously, as well, at the beginning of the season, we then learned that Ford were going to be part of that journey for you as well. You may recall, in the previous episode, we were talking about working cultures and practices and kind of the experiences with working with Honda and how they have their own unique philosophy when it comes to, manufacturing engines, designing them, and integrating the unit itself in with the team. But how exciting is it for you to work with a heritage brand such as Ford, which have achieved so many feats in the world of motor racing and have their own kind of different style? And how do the two contrast and compare? And how excited are you for the future, of Red Bull powertrains and the kind of future projects that they have lined up, not only in F1 but probably outside of the sport too?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, to be very honest. I think it's really still to be seen, kind of how, as you kind of mentioned, the culture how it kind of all comes together, because obviously Red Bull Powertrains, obviously being a new company, it's going to always be an amalgamation of different, because we're hiring, got people from, pretty much all corners of the world. So there's like an intermixing of kind of different people who worked in different places, and obviously culture comes with that as well. So it's, at the moment, it's very interesting to see us kind of growing and to kind of become our own entity in that way. But yeah, having Ford on board is definitely very exciting. But yeah, I think, to be honest, it's still quite early to say. There's so many options out there and things that I think we could be getting involved with Ford. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
You got your break at Red Bull. What was your first job there? Like, and what was it like strolling in? Was that in Milton Keynes, I guess? Was that where
it was indeed. It was. I was a junior model maker, was my first role there, which actually went quite well with my university degree, because we did work in the Myra tunnel in Nuneaton. Yeah, Nuneaton. So we did some like funny little models and things like that, and did an aerodynamics course. So working in the wind tunnel was quite exciting. But it actually took them 4 months to offer me the job. So I thought I hadn't got it. I had gone up there for the interview with my portfolio, all smart in a suit. But yeah, 4 months later, and suddenly I was moving to Milton Keynes.
Wow.
First week spent in a travel lodge, I think, if I remember correctly. It was very, very basic. But my best friend lived there, so it was nice to know people up that way. But it was pretty daunting. But it was probably less daunting then than it is now.
Really?
They had the big trophy cabinet in their reception and things like that, and that wasn't a thing when I started there. Yeah, and I couldn't believe it.
No, well, I mean, clearly it's a huge achievement. And, I think, did you join in something like 2008? So just before they started winning all the Constructors' Championships back to back?
Yeah. So, and Seb's first win in Monza in Toro Rosso.
Ah,
yeah. So I joined,
That trophy cabinet, just coincidentally, as you arrived, started to get full. So, you were doing a great job making the models for the wind tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's definitely not just me.
No,
but take that credit. But
we're hyping you up here. So, going back to your time in the actual Red Bull wind tunnel, I could have got this wrong, but isn't it an old like World War II wind tunnel that they use?
Yeah, it's incredible actually. So it's they used to have Concorde there and developed a lot of Concorde in the tunnel, and there used to be a room like at the very top that had loads of artifacts and old wooden tiny little Concorde model that they used to run in the tunnel. But it's amazing piece of kit. It's obviously it's survived such a long period of time and has gone from aircrafts to Formula One cars, which I guess they relate to each other in many respects. So
us sort of civilians only see the outside of the building, so it's fascinating to hear that it could evolve with the times inside. And you were with Red Bull for quite some time. You mentioned that you didn't work with David Coulthard when he was a driver. He may have just left, I guess, but it would have been the era of Vettel and Webber, right?
Yeah, so Coulthard was there for my first.
Oh, cool.
So I think he was driving.
Yeah, could have been. Yeah,
now you're testing my knowledge, and then I think Mark took over the following year.
Right.
No, I lie. It was Mark and David, wasn't it? And then
you know them by first name, obviously. Clearly.
Sorry. And then Seb came 2009, so he took over from David. Yeah, that's right. Because he had his first win in the Toro Rosso, and then the following year he came and joined us. And if I remember, he was driving an F1 car, but he didn't have the ability to drive in the UK, which we all thought was hilarious because he was like super quick, but he wasn't old enough to be able to drive around Milton
Wow.
Keynes. So
With all its roundabouts, exactly. If you're from outside of the UK, just look at a map of Milton Keynes. And if you're American and don't know what a roundabout is, like, be filled with dread. Come and get a hire car and try Milton Keynes. I don't know.
yes,
Maybe
yes.
it's not that bad. So
I don't know. Yeah.
you were there for a while. And so I guess, were you there when Vettel left? Because I'm thinking Ricardo would have joined.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was actually, and I was so proud of Seb getting his job at Ferrari. Like, the whole team was super proud because we all knew that one day it would happen. And we'd watched him grow, you know, into this amazing person. And he was an amazing person, not just on the track, but all the time at the factory. He was just a very nice, friendly, personable man, and he still is, because I'd bump into him when I was at Sauber and we'd still talk about it. And we were all so proud. I mean, we were sad to lose him, but we all knew that that's what he wanted to do.
So here's a question for you, right? Because, I mean, you've worked in Red Bull, you know what the culture's like, you kind of give an impression that it's an inclusive culture, there's a team spirit. From the outside, you know, not everyone would see that. And we might see, you know, some of Christian Horner's sort of politics or mind games or whatever you want to call it. You know, he's obviously extremely competitive. So, like, and if you look at Vettel, you know, maybe it's because we don't like winners, ? When we're not the ones winning. His kind of reputation seems to have completely changed from the years that he was in Red Bull. You know, his personality seems to have come out since he's sort of retired or went to Aston Martin. What did you feel Red Bull was like? Can you recognize that characterization of the team, that maybe it's kind of win at all costs, or do you think that's just sort of our grapes from someone like me? I don't know.
I think looking at it now, it's very cutthroat, but I don't think you go to Red Bull without knowing that. It's like this possibility, but I wouldn't. When I joined, it was quite a small team, and everybody knew everybody, and everybody said hello to each other in the corridor. And you know, the receptionist Thelma knew your name as you walked in and said hello every morning, and it was And if we won a race, we had a race debrief, and everyone was thanked, right from the cleaners, you know, right up to top management. It wasn't, you know, you were made very clear that without the cleaners cleaning your workspace, you didn't have a clean workspace to come into in the mornings and things like that. So it's media is difficult. You know, at one point they were making Seb out to be this horrible person, but actually he was generally very nice. You know, would even in his later years, him cleaning the grandstands, but at Red Bull, he would stay and help the boys pack up and things like that. But, you know, the media is there to cause a ruckus, and they do it very well, right? So
no, they've got a narrative, and I suppose they're trying to get eyes on their outlet, whether it's TV or the internet or newspapers or whatever. So you were a model maker, so you're working in the wind tunnel. So to some extent, you were in the same sort of division as Adrian Newey, right?
Yes.
Did you?
I mean,
go on.
I was going to say, he occasionally, when we didn't have restricted hours, would ring us up during FP3 on a Saturday morning and say, I want to try this gurney on this part, and we'd have to run it in the tunnel before it went on the car, and they were working hand in hand. You know, he'd wait for us to test it in the tunnel to then say, right, boys, we need this on the car at the track.
Thank you very much for listening to the 12 Days of Christmas here on Georgie's Stripping the Dipping podcast. I've been your unusual co-host, F1 Blag. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and give us a follow both on Twitter and on Instagram at Strip the Dip. Until next time, bye.